Welcome to Upticks with Jake Falcon, founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help high net worth individuals overcome financial complexities. We do this by enhancing financial literacy and discussing topics in a language free from industry jargon. Join us as we help explain exactly what having a solid financial plan means, as Jake draws from years of experience in helping hundreds of individuals get financially organized and focused on their goals. We hope you find Upticks educational, entertaining, and shareable. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to Upticks. This is episode 183, pro golfer Andy Spencer. Andy, thank you for joining me on the show.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course, and I owe you a great deal of gratitude. I know it's really early where you are in Arizona this morning, so thank you. We're recording this just after 7 a.m. in Kansas City, so I know it's nice and early in Arizona. But hey, golfers wake up early, don't they?
That's right. That's right. It gets me going on the right foot.
Good. And for today's show, I wanted to switch it up a little bit. I wanted to share with our audience some of the golfers out there that we engage with, we support, and we sponsor. And we have a ton of clients who golf of Falcon Wealth Advisors. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to interview you today, Andy, because you're a pro golfer, and it's you can do what 99.9% of golfers can't do. So I think that alone is something pretty special, and I think warrants having you on the show. So thank you again for carving out some time this morning with me. So let's share with our audience that doesn't know you. Maybe why don't you share where you grew up and when you first started playing golf?
Sure. Yeah, I grew up, born and raised in Kansas City. I grew up in Prairie Village. So, went to elementary school at Briarwood, did 1 year at Mission Valley before that closed, and then transferred over to Indian Hills, and then fed into East. Went to East for 4 years, graduated in 2016. Was fortunate enough to go play golf at kind of my dream school, University of Kansas, for 4 years for a coach that I really respect and helped me, kind of get to where I am today. Kind of on the golf side of it, grew up at a place called Milburn Country Club, which I'm sure a bunch of your listeners are familiar with. One of the better places, I think, in the city to grow up on. Taught me a lot about hitting different shots, and the membership there has always been super supportive of me and kind of what I've done. Since then,
well, let me interrupt you there, Andy, because that's a lot.
Sure.
That's a lot of cool stuff there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, so I have lots of clients who have children or grandchildren that are in middle school or high school and are playing golf and are good golfers. So
Sure.
What advice maybe would you give them? Did you play multiple sports growing up? I know your family, you have a lot of athletes in your family. So were you always just golf, or did you do other things?
I pretty much played everything except football. So my brother was the football player, and he's still doing it. So I played basketball and baseball pretty competitively up till high school. And then I decided to kind of drop those and focus on golf. In high school, I could have played basketball in high school, but just kind of decided not to. Gave me the opportunity to play some tournaments, kind of down here and in Florida in the wintertime. But I definitely encourage anyone who's trying, to maybe pursue golf, to definitely keep their options open and play as many sports as they possibly can. You can learn a lot of things from the team building and stuff like that in other sports, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point, because golf, is such an individual sport that at your level, I'm sure now you have a team around you. So I think having that probably in your younger years, how to interact with a caddy or other people that are your coaches and people surrounding you, which is interesting. Now, KU, now I grew up in Texas, right? And don't hold that against me, but and KU, I was born in Kansas City, and I've lived here now since 2006. And I know a lot of really, really good golfers that have come out of KU. I mean, Gary Woodland is on the PGA Tour, right? We've got Chase Hanna on the European Tour. You're obviously pro golfer, but when I think of golf schools, I don't think of KU. So was there, I know it's your dream school, probably growing up in Kansas City, but what attracted you to KU? And did you even look at other schools, or it was like, if KU wants me, I'm all in? I'm just curious.
I looked at a couple other schools. I took visits to Illinois, Colorado, Indiana, a couple other small schools I was in contact with. But no, I think you know, KU, I think so KU wasn't very good the couple years before I got there, like right before Chase got there. They weren't very good, but then they brought in a coach named Jamie Bermel from Colorado State, and Chase was in his first recruiting class. And I kind of saw him turn it around when Chase was there for his 4 years, and I thought that A, would be a good place for me, and B, he obviously knew what he was doing. So yeah, I mean, once they offered me, I thought it was a pretty easy decision, being local and having grown up rooting for KU my whole life. So
Right.
that was big. And then obviously it's 45 minutes from my house, so it's far enough, but not too far.
Perfect. Now, what course did you guys play on in Lawrence? All of them, I guess, or did you have one?
Yeah, we so the Jayhawk Club was in the middle of renovation, kind of right when I got there. Our current indoor facility opened my spring of my sophomore year, I think. But we mainly like qualified when we had qualifying for tournaments. We went to Lawrence Country Club. Sometimes we drive up to like Shadow Glen or out to Firekeeper and Topeka. So
Nice.
yeah, we mainly practiced at Jayhawk Club, and then if we were to go play in Lawrence, it was LCC.
Now, is the Jayhawk Club the old Alvamar?
Yeah, so I know the old Alvamar had 18 public, 18 private. So now they turned it into 27 all private.
Got it.
Kind of redid, like they kept the front 9 of the private side, and then the rest of the course they completely redid. They've had some troubles, but I think it's coming around a little bit. Our practice facility's been great. So
nice.
Hopefully the golf course comes around as well.
Yeah. Now, before we kind of move on after college, I am curious too. You hear about this from a lot of pro golfers, but what is do you have a first golf memory? Like literally anything golf, your first memory? Like, can you think back?
Yeah, so I before Drive, Chip, and Putt was held at Augusta National and sponsored by the Masters, it was Golf Channel got behind it really, really hard. And it was down in Orlando. So I was in like probably 3rd grade, did the local qualifier in Kansas City, got through, and then drove up to either Lincoln or Omaha and got through and made it to nationals. So that was pretty cool. It's like a 3rd grader to be able to go.
That's awesome.
Do Drive, Chip, and Putt in Orlando, being that young. But that's kind of my first memory of really like competitive golf. That was, it's not really like playing golf competitively, but you get kind of a taste of the competition at that age, which I think was really good for me because it kind of spurred me on to pursue it.
Right. And I know I've played golf with you, and I know you hit the ball a really long way. So back in 3rd grade, has that always been your strength as hitting the ball far?
Yeah, I've always kind of been like one of the bigger kids in my class, whether it was height, weight, whatever, but that's kind of always been my strength.
Do you attribute that to playing other sports, or just your physical makeup, or maybe playing at Milburn, which isn't a short golf course? Like, what do you attribute that to?
I think it's playing other sports. I also think it's, golfers are athletes too. We do tend to get in the weight room, which I didn't like going into college, and I kind of learned to like it. Put some weight on in college because, believe it or not, I was super, super skinny in high school. And then kind of learned that being 6 foot, 145 pounds dripping wet's not going to get it done. So, but yeah, put some weight on in high school, and then, or in college, sorry, and then was able to kind of maintain that, and it's been good so far.
Yeah, but have you seen, I agree with you, but have you seen, who's that PGA Tour guy that's like super skinny, right? I think he's from Texas, and he just got status. Maybe I can't think of his name. Like, he had like a ton of top 10 finishes, but you know what I'm talking about? Like, he looks like.
That was Zalatoris.
Yes, that guy.
Yeah. There's a bunch of guys out there. Like, watching yesterday, other than like John Rahm, I watched a couple holes. He's a big dude, but like Justin Thomas isn't very big. I watched Matt Fitzpatrick for a couple holes. He's not very big. So I don't know if it's like the TV camera when you watch on TV, it makes them look bigger, but they're kind of normal sized dudes with the, like I said, exception to a couple guys like Finau and Rahm. But
right.
Yeah, it's kind of cool seeing that, knowing that they're not just like absolute giants.
Yeah, good point. Who do you think you match up physically? Is it more like Rahm, or is your stature more like his, or Finau, or?
Yeah, I'd say more like even like Gary or John Rahm. Like I've got a big big kind of tree trunks as legs. That's kind of where I get my power.
Yeah.
And kind of looking at Rahm yesterday, that's kind of where he gets his power. Gary's kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Whereas guys like JT and Rory kind of get it through fast hips and a little bit more wiry bodies. So,
Right.
yeah, I would kind of compare myself to like John Rahm body type wise.
Got it. So good. So I know after KU, and I don't know if you were still in college, you've won the Watson Challenge, which is the major golf tournament in Kansas City. Have you won that 3 times, Andy?
Yeah, 3 times.
That's awesome. Now, what were you still in college when you won originally, or was it after college?
Yeah, my first one I won was at Milburn. I think my junior year.
That's awesome.
Sophomore year, junior year, something like that. And then was able to win it again the next year at Shadow. And then won it for the first time as a pro at the National last year, which was great. Being able to cash a check for one of those was awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Now, for those of you who don't know, and Andy, you can maybe correct me if I'm wrong here, but the Watson Challenge is, what is it, the top 50 or so regional golfers. Now, amateurs have to get points through playing in major amateur tournaments, and then pros, I think they kind of just handpick the best pros in the area, or maybe you guys have points too. But for the Midwest, probably Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, Iowa, Oklahoma, it's probably one of the biggest tournaments around because Tom Watson sponsors it, actually plays in it when he's won it a handful of times, which is crazy that he still can play at that level. So did you get to play with Watson during any of those events that you won? I know you've played in it so much.
Yeah, I've played with him. I played with him once. I'm trying to recall where I played with him. First round of Lionsgate in that would have been 2019 because they didn't have the event in 2020 because of the pandemic. But yeah, that was awesome. I've kind of looked up to him. Not many guys get to play with an 8-time major champion very often. And him being from Kansas City, and being a member at Wolf Creek's where I've since joined, I've gotten to see him quite a bit and kind of learning from what he does practice wise and kind of how he handles himself on a golf course was great for me.
Yeah. So what are some of the key takeaways that you got from Tom? What would you say that you learned from either playing? Is he social or is he kind of just all business, even though this is kind of fun?
If you approach him the right way, he's a little social. He didn't divulge too much, but just from watching him on the golf course, the consistency is pretty remarkable. Obviously he's older now and he's hitting longer clubs into these holes in the Watson Challenge, especially. And, he's hitting 6 irons as close as I'm hitting wedge. So that was pretty remarkable. And the most impressive thing I thought of him was every chip he hit looked like it had a chance to go in, which I thought was pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And I watched him when the Watson was at Hallbrook, I watched him warm up on the range. And this guy was just pounding balls. He had a full sweat going. Is that normal? I mean, I guess that's just.
I don't know. I kind of remember that I played in that event too. It was super hot.
Yeah, maybe
he's very unique. He takes 3 iron as his first club out of the range and starts hitting 3 irons, which he rolled up to me at Lionsgate during the Watson and did that. I was like super confused, but obviously it's worked out for him.
Right. I think I read about that once, actually. I think Golf Digest or somebody interviewed him and they said, and I could be wrong, but I think he said something to the fact that, like, I'm not supposed to hit a 3 iron well. So if I start with it and I hit it bad, no big deal. And I think that's
right.
But that's crazy. Like I got to really much work up to a 3 iron. I can't just pull up to the range and start firing it. Like,
yeah, I'm the same way. It's gonna go south if I start with 3 iron.
Right. So good. Okay. So you're past KU. Obviously, now you're officially a pro golfer. You've got sponsors, and we'll talk about a little bit of the business side. But currently, you're on PGA Tour Latin America, which I think is an awesome feeder into the Korn Ferry and eventually the PGA Tour. And I know you're relatively new to the tour this year, but can you share some of the experiences that you've had and how's that working out for you so far?
Sure. So I had Korn Ferry status last year and a half, and then didn't get into too many events. And in the events I got into, I didn't play great. So lost my Korn Ferry card and went to Latin Q school back in like November, December, something like that. Got status down in Latin. We've had 2 events, one in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and one in Santiago, Chile. was able to make one cut, so off to a decent start. But it's been really fun so far. You know, I don't think I'd ever see that part of the world without this tour, which I think is great. And then the guys that are on that tour is really fun. Just kind of like a traveling fraternity, a bunch of guys that have kind of just graduated college and are trying to make it. I think we have a really great appreciation for one another, because we know how hard it is to make it, and you know, we all work very, very hard to try to get to where we're going. So that's fun. You make a lot of new friends along the way, especially guys, you know, really from all over the world. I played with a kid from Norway down in Chile, and yeah, you don't meet people from Norway every day. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you guys are obviously probably very competitive to just be at that level to begin with. But would you say, when you mentioned fraternity, it almost made me think of, are you somewhat cheering each other on too? Because you guys are all there for the same purpose. And obviously, I want you to be number one of that tour. But
Sure.
I mean, also, I could see it as like, you're not necessarily, yeah, you're trying to win the tournament, but you're not also wishing ill will on anybody down there, I'm assuming, right? I mean,
Yeah, I think deep down we want to beat each other's brains in just competitively. But you know, if I am not in a tournament and you know one of my buddies is coming up 18 trying to win, yeah, hell yeah, I want him to win.
right.
And it's kind of cool because Charlie Hillary, who I played with at KU for 3+ years, he's got status down there, and then a couple other guys who play at KU have some conditional status. So we've got a nice little travel group together. Because it'd be pretty tough to do it alone, going to these places you've never been to, and my Spanish is terrible, so that's a bit of a problem. But I'm trying to learn.
Yeah, good. That makes a lot of sense, and that's one of the things that still attracts me to golf to this day, is that yes, you can be super competitive, but ultimately, for golfers, it's everybody against the golf course, right? I mean, you're all trying to make birdies. So I think that's very cool about that. So you got the PGA Tour, Latin America. So I guess the goal then is to accumulate enough points, right? And then you'd get promoted to the Cornfield Tour. Is that the whole concept of why you're on there?
Yeah. So the way I try to explain it to people is like, obviously PGA Tour is like the big leagues. Cornfield Tour is kind of like AAA, and then where I'm at is kind of like AA. So if you finish high enough up on Latin, you're going to get promoted to Corn Ferry. So the number one overall money leader they get every start on Corn Ferry. Top 5 get the first 8 or 12, I can't remember. And then top 10 get to go to finals, top 20 second stage, and top 60 keep their card. So yeah, it's kind of about just making as many cuts as you can, trying to sneak a win in there, a bunch of top 10s and something like that. Obviously easier said than done, but something that the tour, I think the tour has done a good job setting up these opportunities for guys like us to kind of feed into the Corn Ferry Tour.
Right. And what kind of scores are people? So these are regular 4-day events, right? Just like any other PGA tournament. So what's it usually? I know you've only played in a couple events, this year, but what does it usually take to win something like this? How low are guys going?
Yeah, obviously it kind of depends on the golf course, weather conditions, there's a lot of factors, but usually if you shoot, it's usually around 15 under, give or take a couple shots for 4 rounds. So obviously you got to go low. So
yeah, that's crazy. So that's still, and like you mentioned, that's AA, and so it's only it's crazy how competitive golf is and how many good golfers there are out there, and that's awesome. So let's talk about the business side. Obviously, Falcon Wealth Advisors. We are very proud sponsors of you, Andy. We sponsor a handful of golfers, really for 2 reasons. Selfishly, I'm living a little vicariously through you because you can do what I can't. So I'd love to see you again blossom and get on the PGA Tour. And then also, it's great. We love, not all of my clients play golf, obviously, but a lot of them do. And so it's fun to be able to say, hey, I know a pro golfer. I'm supporting him and his efforts. And if you ever want to meet him or play around a golf, or it's just nice to be able to give back to the golf community through this avenue. So it's been a lot of fun. Do you have other? I know it's tough, probably because again, there's so many good golfers out there. So do you have other sponsors currently?
I do. Yeah. I really appreciate you guys' support through and through, but Yeah, I've got other sponsors. I set up an LLC and kind of did had shares available, and I'm doing like a payback method until they get their money back, and that kind of resets every year. So that current deal is going to run through 2023, which is a nice little, obviously the sport's awesome. I can't thank these people enough for giving me the chance to pursue my dream. And then just kind of the comfort of having that safety blanket. You kind of don't have to worry about expenses as much. Kind of going out and freewheeling it the first 3 years is really nice, and kind of see where you're at. And then, if you're close to getting to the next level, maybe reevaluate after that. And if, you're struggling, not have status anywhere or something like that, then it might be time to move on, but hopefully that time doesn't come.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So that's smart. So you set up an LLC, you have investors kind of, right, where people have put money into you, and you look to give them some money back. Then you have outright sponsors like me, who, again, it is an investment, but we're not asking for anything in return.
Sure.
And then do you have deals with Ping? I see you're wearing a Ping hat and Titleist, or is that kind of set to happen still?
Yeah. So I've got a club deal with Ping. They're not paying me anything. It's just a standard, I've got a rep that I go through, and being able to get some free stuff. And then Titleist, I do ball shoe gloves. So I wear FootJoy shoes, FootJoy glove, play the Titleist golf ball. And they do a little bit of compensation on Latin Tour. They'll pay you if you win on Latin. Then if you get far enough into Q school, like in the finals next year, they'll compensate you as well. And then obviously the more and more you move up, Cornfield and PGA Tour, those contracts get a little more lucrative. So you're trying to build a relationship with those guys as early as you can. That way, when you move up the ladder, you can kind of take advantage.
Right, exactly. And so I'm a big Titleist fan. So do you? Which golf ball do you use at Titleist?
So I've used the Pro V1, the black one, for probably 8-9 years now. I think it's the best ball in the market. I don't really think it's close, to be honest.
Do you use the same? Do you use a newer version, or are you using like 2018?
I actually used the 2019 ball for a while, even after the 2021 ball came out, and then I switched probably like April of 2021. So I tested it for a couple months, didn't like it originally, and then found some things that I did like about it, so I ended up switching to it. But it's been fantastic. Shoots out of the windows that I want, spins correctly, and the big thing for me, being from Kansas, is it's got to perform in the wind, and I think that golf ball does really, really well in the wind.
Right. And I talked about how long. So let's share, like, what is your swing speed now with the driver, and how far are you hitting this thing?
Yeah, I usually sit around 120 swing speed,
That's
which
awesome.
it's like I said, power has been one of my gifts through the years. So.
And how far is that hitting it then? How far are you hitting a driver?
Oh, out here when it's 82 degrees today, it's going to be going a while.
Like 310 or?
Yeah, like standard, like if I'll get on track, man, in Kansas, it'll probably carry anywhere from 300 to 310, kind of depending on conditions. But
that's awesome.
If I'm playing a tournament like next week down in Mexico at sea level, I kind of know I can carry it anywhere from 295 to 305.
Yeah, and you know what though, Andy, and I don't want to just focus on your length, because when you and I played together, your putting was, in my opinion, just as good as your driving. It was just as good. Like you mentioned Tom Watson, like every one of his chips looked like it's going to, I think every one of your putts could have gone in. Like, I don't think you hit a bad putt in 18 holes. We played 18 with one of my clients and friends, and neither of us could believe it. It's like, man, this guy, it's like he can make everything. You could have shot 58 that day. I mean, it was.
Well, I appreciate it. It's actually funny. Putting's never really been my strong suit, and I went and saw a coach down in Pinehurst probably like a year and a half ago. He obviously has really, really helped. Got a new putter in the bag. Got down to really some new technical things at setup, and it's obviously been paying off.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a game changer, I bet. So it's awesome that you can hit it so long and straight and putt really well. Well, good. And then so let's switch gears a little bit. So again, a lot of my clients play golf, and a lot of them are varied skill levels. But what advice what advice would you give the amateur golfer? Like, because you've played thousands of rounds with all different types of, so you're at the pro level, but what advice would you just give the typical amateur golfer if you were just saying, hey, you should approach a round or your game like this?
Yeah, so I know, like, obviously people that work don't have as much time to kind of practice and work on their game. But I would say when you go to the driving range, don't show up and just hit balls like aimlessly. Kind of show up and have a plan. If you're gonna, show up and just hit, 2 wedges, 3 drivers, and a bunch of other stuff, it's not going to really improve when you take to the golf course. So I would show up, maybe try to hit, obviously get warmed up and then take a sandwich or something. Try to hit 5 as close to 80 yards as you can. Try to hit 5 as close to 100 yards as you can. Once you get to like 8 iron, try to maybe hit one left to right, hit one straight, hit one right to left, hit one low, hit one high. That's kind of what I do when I practice. I try to hit a bunch of different shots kind of under the gun. That way I can take it to the golf course and know that if I need to hit that shot, I have confidence in doing so. And that's been something that I had to learn over time. In high school, I didn't really have a practice plan. In college, I was able to learn through my coach at KU to be able to, develop how to practice and how to get better. So that was a big help. And then, the better your practice is going to be, the more confident you're going to be on the golf course.
That's a really good advice. I personally don't do that. Believe it. I usually hit at targets, right? And I just try to hit it straight,
Sure.
You know what I mean? So, that's interesting. That's really good advice. Thank you. And what about for our clients that have maybe children or grandchildren that are aspiring junior golfers? I know you already commented on them playing multiple sports, but what, so let's say they have a golfer that's in high school and they're scratch or whatever, like what advice would you give them to kind of get into that next level? Like, what are some things that you did, or, I don't know, is there tournaments they should be playing in?
Yeah. So I played a lot of the stuff that like Kansas Golf Association and Kansas City Golf Association down in the Central Links put on. And then I kind of got into AJGA, which is the bigger, it's almost like a PGA Tour for juniors all throughout the summer. Played a couple of those throughout the Midwest. But I think the big thing is, especially for parents, my parents did a really, really good job not really pressing golf on me. They just kind of let me, go off my way. And if I liked it, great. And if not, then we could find something else. I think you need your kid to love it themselves. If you kind of push it on them, then they might not have as much fun doing it. That's not saying you can't motivate them to go practice or whatever, but if you're consistently kind of pushing them in a direction they don't want to go, they're going to end up dropping it more times than not. So
that's a really good point.
My parents did a great job of that and never really put any pressure on me, which I think was key in kind of getting to where I'm at now.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because it's like a parent-child relationship. If your parents are always nagging you to make your bed, you're never going to want to make your bed.
Right.
So if your mom and dad are nagging you to go play or go practice or all up in your golf business, then what's the fun in it? That's a good point. And that's a really good point. That's good advice. So good. So I know we're running out of time. You're probably headed out to the golf course today, aren't you?
I am. Yeah. Good old sun's coming up over the mountain right now. So I'm looking forward to hitting it around a little bit.
Yes. Well, very good. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else out there that I left off that maybe you want to share with your golf story?
I think we're good. I thank you for having me on. Look forward to keep doing business with you in the future, and appreciate it.
Yeah, of course, Andy. We'll be cheering you on from cold Kansas City, so we don't feel too bad for you down in Mexico and Arizona. But thank you again. Safe travels. Good luck to you. If anyone's watching this and you want to follow Andy, I think PGA Tour Latin America, right? They've got it on the golf app. That's probably the best way to follow
so you can download the PGA Tour app, and then the top left, there's going to be a drop-down box, and it's got all the tours on it. You can click PGA Tour Latin America, go to leaderboard, and click on myself and star it, so you can follow along down in Mexico next week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got you starred on mine. And again, we'll be rooting for you. Good luck and safe travels.
Great. Thanks, Jake.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website, falconwealthadvisors.com, and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.